Well, thank you for being here this morning. We just concluded a very successful special political conference with our special guest, President Donald J. Trump. He was warmly welcomed by the House Republican Conference. We are 100% unified behind his candidacy and are ready to get to work on behalf of the American people to secure the border, unleash American energy independence, bring back peace through strength, stand up for election integrity, and defeat this illegal weaponization of the justice system. It was a unifying event, and I'm grateful to the president for answering questions from our colleagues today. I want to turn it over to our NRCC chair, Richard Hudson.
I'm Richard Hudson, chairman of the NRCC. We just had a great meeting with President Trump. President Trump understands how important it is that we grow our House majority and how important that is to his success for his next term. And we're committed to working very closely with him. We appreciate the partnership with him. Together with President Trump, we're going to grow this House majority, and then together we're going to fix the mess created by Joe Biden, because the American people are desperate for change. They're desperate for us to save this country, and together we're going to do that. Thank you.
I echo those comments. I'm going to add, anybody who thought that this president was going to be down after the sham trial, after that crooked trial that we saw in New York, think again. It's only given him even more energy. And what he did for us upstairs just now is he showed us that energy and he showed us that positive outlook despite all the garbage they've been throwing at him with their lawfare and their nonsense. They are desperate. They realize Donald Trump is crushing this election. The baseball game, I think we were told it's a harbinger of what's going to happen in the fall, that 31-10. Donald Trump is going to win. Donald Trump is going to help us win. We're going to be able to fix the country when it happens. He was great. Yes. And I got the leader.
Thank you, Whip. We just had a great, resounding speech by President Trump. And if you look at the applause, standing ovations, a lot of, as Elise said, a lot of unifying messages from President Trump, but also optimistic messages. President Trump talked a lot about what we need to do to get our country back on track, spent a lot of time talking about securing America's border and why that's so important to our national security. Talked about the fact that we have Russian warships off of our coast right now, off of America's coast, because of Joe Biden's weakness and the difference between strong leadership and President Trump. President Trump talked a lot, too, about how to get the economy back on track and reduce inflation for those families who are struggling all across America. Families can't afford to buy groceries, can't afford to fill up their cars because of the failed policies of Joe Biden. And President Trump talked about what we can do working with a Republican Congress to fix these problems in January, but it all starts November 5th. And we are incredibly unified in working with President Trump to get him elected so that we can work with him to fix these serious problems that our country faces. And President Trump gave a great tribute to our speaker, Mike Johnson.
Thank you, Leader Scalise and Whip Emmer, and our conference chair Stefanik, and our NRCC chair Richard Hudson. This is a great leadership team, and it was our great pleasure to host the president this morning, the 45th president, who will soon to be reelected as the 47th president. President Trump brought an extraordinary amount of energy and excitement and enthusiasm this morning. That is what we're seeing in the party throughout the country. Many of us are traveling the country. I do it endlessly. I've been in 29 states and done events in 123 cities, and we go to blue states and swing districts and everywhere in between. And there is something happening in the country. That's the phrase I used to introduce the president this morning, and he repeated the phrase a number of times in his own remarks because he's feeling and seeing that as well. He had 107,000 people turn out to a rally in New Jersey. He's going coast to coast as we are, and we're all seeing the same thing. People recognize right now in this country that this will be the most consequential election, certainly of our lifetimes, and probably maybe in the last century or more in America. Everything is at stake. The Biden administration and President Biden have made a mess of every area of public policy, and everyone in the country knows it. And so they're anxious for answers. They want a response to the things that have them so fed up. And our party is there to provide them. We have an extraordinary stable of candidates who are out there running great campaigns across the country. Our incumbents are in great shape. The challengers that we've recruited to flip some of these seats from blue back to red are doing extraordinarily well, and we believe we're headed for a great November. We don't take anything for granted. You have to run like you're 10 points behind. But we are very encouraged by the polling that shows what we know intuitively, and that is this thing is trending certainly in the right direction. And we believe that we're going to win back the White House and the Senate and grow the House majority. And when we do that, we will not waste a moment. We will be working on a very aggressive agenda to fix all the great problems facing this country right now. We talked a little bit about that today with President Trump. We talked about how to grow this House majority and how he will help in doing so, and then how we'll help him as well. And this is a unified effort by the party. We're feeling good. As we walked out of the room today, one of our colleagues walked up to me who's been around a long time, been in Congress a long time. He said, I feel better, I feel more confident, more energy, more enthusiasm right now than I've felt in probably 40 years in politics. And I think that is probably a good indication of how people are feeling out there in the country. Something is happening, and we're excited about that. We'll take a few questions. Yes, sir.
On the legislative front, President Trump has talked a lot about his frustration with the convictions facing him and the legal challenges. Does he feel that you are doing enough as House Republicans to fight against that? And in particular, the Russell Fry bill, did he mention that? And can you commit now to moving that forward after the president's address?
Yeah, we're working on the Russell Fry bill. I think it's a good idea, and that basically is a simple concept. It's that if a president or vice president is challenged in court, in a state court, they would have the right to remove it to a federal court. That's a very common sense notion. It's something that's already in practice for federal judges and members of Congress. It should apply to the executive branch as well, and I think it shouldn't even be a controversial notion. He didn't bring up that specific piece of legislation. He did talk about his concern about the lawfare that's been waged against him, and we all know it. And I made the point in my introduction of him that it's backfired fantastically on the Democrat Party and the activists who are trying to use our judicial system to exact political vendettas against the primary opponent that they have for the control of the country. And what we've seen is outrageous, and we've also seen the polling and the fundraising and everything else go in the direction of the target. President Trump has set fundraising records. He raised $53 million in the first 24 hours after the verdict in that terrible, bogus trial in Manhattan. And I think that shows that people understand what's happening here. We also set fundraising records, and we've continued to. He's announced he's raised over $400 million since the verdict came down, and there's much more to come. And you know why? Because people see that that is a threat to our republic. They see that that's a threat to our system of justice, and they want to push back. And so in many ways, President Trump has become a symbol of that, pushing back against corruption, the deep state, the weaponization of the judicial system, and that's a very encouraging development. So I think that he made the point every time they indicted him, his polls went up. That's right, because people see exactly what's happening here, and we have to fix it, and we will.
Does the former president give his endorsement to this leadership team, and does he want you to continue to be the speaker after the November election?
He said very complimentary things about all of us. We had sustained applause. He said, I'm doing a very good job. I mean, we're grateful for that. Look, we have to have continuity in leadership. We have to have a plan, and it has to be very carefully executed. When he became president for the first time in 2017, I was a freshman in Congress at the time, and a lot of people on Capitol Hill didn't expect that would be the eventuality. They didn't actually believe that we would have unified government where the Republican Party would control the White House, the Senate, and the House. And so we lost a few steps, frankly, in the beginning of that Congress, the 115th Congress, because the plan was not fully prepared and the implementation lagged a little bit. We're not going to make that mistake again. And so what we're doing right now, you never put the cart before the horse, but we have to plan to lead because there's so many problems to fix. And so we're working through that right now. I spend a lot of time talking with President Trump about what happens after the election, and we have to do that. It's our responsibility. I'll be with him again in Mar-a-Lago on Monday. We'll be talking about more of this and some of the races out there. He's excited. We're excited. We really think this will happen. So it's a good working relationship. Yes, sir.
Trump brought up abortion, that Republicans you encourage Republicans to support exceptions for rape, incest, life of the mother. Is that something that Republicans should be getting behind on those exceptions?
Well, President Trump, the way he addressed the issue this morning is he said, make sure that you exercise your own conscience, talk about it, share your conviction, and do that in a way that makes sense to people. And I think he had made a good point. He has said that after the Dobbs decision that the states are handling the issue right now, and that's where he's comfortable keeping it. And We've made the point that before you can have political consensus on a difficult issue, you have to have cultural consensus. And right now, we just don't have the numbers in Congress to do anything on the federal level, and that's just the reality. I mean, to get 60 votes in the Senate on something would be a great challenge. So we don't sacrifice any core principle. We all believe in the sanctity of human life, and everyone has to go to their districts and explain it in their own way. And President Trump encouraged everyone to do that. I think that's important. Another question?
Last one, we don't have a question.
Front, there's some number of incumbents in that room who Trump is endorsed against. Two come to mind, Dan Newhouse and Bob Good. How frustrating is it to see the leader of the party, who you all agree has unified the Republican Party, still taking shots at members who you have to defend?
Well, look, President Trump has been a great partner overall and has endorsed, I think his record, I think it's 285-0 in candidates that he's supported. And so he's been very helpful to us. He's worked along the way. And look, as the Speaker, my job is to protect all the incumbents, and I'm out doing that the best of my ability. And each one of these races are individual, and they're going to be determined by the people on the ground. So our incumbents are out running the best races they can, and I think they'll all perform well in the end. So thank you all. We appreciate the time.
Well, thank you very much. This was a great meeting. There's tremendous unity in the Republican Party. We want to see borders. We want to see strong military. We want to see money not wasted all over the world. We don't want to see Russian ships right off the coast of Florida, which is what they are right now. That's unthinkable. We want to see just success for our country. And we don't have success right now. We have inflation that's killing everybody. We have levels of inflation that nobody's seen for, they say 42 years, they say 53 years, and they say 75 years. I would say probably all of them are wrong. Probably we've never seen levels like this before. And we're going to end that. We're going to bring back our jobs. We're going to bring back common sense to government. We're going to have strong borders, and we're going to have people come into our country, but they're going to come in legally. They're not going to pour in from prisons all over South America and all over the world. And it's not just South America, by the way. It's all over the world. And we're not going to have them pour in from mental institutions, which is where they're coming from, large numbers, and large numbers are terrorists. And we're not going to have this. So what's happening to our country is of great concern to the group of people standing alongside of me. And I just wanted to say that we have great unity. We have great common sense. A lot of very smart people in this room, and a lot of people that love our country. They love our country beyond just about all else. And the only thing that maybe supersedes it is their family and maybe their faith in certain instances, and that's very nice. But they want this country to be great again, and we're going to make it great again. And so I just want to thank the Republican Senate, and I want to thank also the House. We met, as you know, with the full House, Republican House today, and we had a tremendous meeting with them also, and there's great unity. Very similar, different topics actually, but not that different. And there's one thing in common. We want to make America great again. We want to make our country great again. We're a nation that's in decline. We're a declining nation. We're a nation that is being laughed at all over the world. We have a leader that's being laughed at all over the world. And we're going to turn it around. We're going to turn it around fast. The polls are looking like they're very strongly for us. And no matter where you look, in fact, a lot of states that people thought weren't in play are very strongly in play. Some we're actually leading in. But we have to get elected. We have to take this beautiful place, and we have to make it really something very special again. Right now, it's not special. Right now, it's being scorned and being used as an example of when they look at the crime on the streets, when they look at all of the problems that we have, they're using us as a bad example of democracy. And they're getting away with murder, and we're not going to let it happen. So I just want to thank you for coming, and I want to thank everybody here. You're all either elected or you're going to be elected again and reelected, and I'm with every one of you, and you know that. I'll be with you always. And thank you very much for inviting me, and we're going to have great success. I think we're going to have a tremendous election. It's November 5th is very important, but we really start Much earlier than that, you have North Carolina. As an example, you have North Carolina September 6th. You have Pennsylvania starts on September 22nd. These are things different from the old days. We had Election Day and you had paper ballots and you had voter ID. Unfortunately, maybe someday we'll get back to that. But you don't have that right now. But this is an outstanding group of people. I'm with them 1,000%. They're with me 1,000%. We agree just about on everything, and if there isn't, we work it out. And I've had a really great relationship with just about everybody here, just about all of the senators. And if it wasn't fantastic, it gets worked out. And we have one thing in mind, and that's making our country great. So thank you all very much. We appreciate you being here. Thank you very much.
The president reportedly said, and I emphasize reportedly said, that those who sign up to serve instead of doing something more lucrative are suckers.
I want to address what is quite clearly fake news. The story in The Atlantic has been categorically debunked by eyewitnesses and contemporaneous documents.
There is nobody that feels more strongly about our soldiers, our wounded warriors, our soldiers that died in war than I do.
He cares about this country. More importantly to me, he cares about my son. He cares about the military.
He's been so caring to me and my family.
And two, I appointed Johnson to the academy. I just want you to know that. Just clap for that, you stupid bastards.
Well, now come these upsetting images of hundreds of troops sleeping on the floor of a parking garage. And if this makes your blood boil, you are not alone.
President Biden facing backlash for what critics are calling a lack of respect after walking out on a distinguished veteran during a Medal of Honor ceremony in the White House.
In reference to the checking of his watch, that didn't happen just once. That happened on every single one that came out of that airplane.
I actually leaned into my son's mother's ear and I said, I swear to God, if he checks his watch one more time, and that was only probably 4 times in, I couldn't look at him anymore after that. I found it to be the most disrespectful thing I've ever seen.
President Biden, he's often called the consoler-in-chief. He does talk to families who've lost loved ones because of his own experiences. Have you experienced that from him as you've been coping with the death of Nicole?
No.
Have you spoken to him?
No, he has not reached out to our family. We've actually reached out to the White House and have never heard back.
2 minutes later, he walks in with him and Jill Biden and their little entourage of people and like photographer. And right away, like, remember him coming up to me, trying to shake my hand, like, try to shake my right hand. And I look at him, and I'm like, I don't have an arm. And my left arm is in this big cast with this giant orange foam block around it. I'm completely immobile. All I can do is move my head. My arm's gone. I'm like, I don't have an arm. And he says, oh, and like kind of stands up and then like goes over to reach for my fingers because about an inch of my fingers are showing, and just like grabs my fingers. Doesn't greet me or anything, just that's what happened, just grab my fingers. Almost immediately starts talking like about how their son served in the military. Doesn't say anything about what happened, starts talking about how their son served in the military. And my mom is just like, she's furious at this point, and they're like taking pictures and stuff. And she was like, my mom said that, she was like, I don't give a f***. She's like, I don't care what you guys f***ing do. She's like, you better take care of him for the rest of his f***ing life. And he comes over to me and he leans over me. And I have a picture of this to prove it. I'll show you this picture that I have. And he leans over me and he's like this close to my face. And he's like, what do you want? And I said, what do you want? I said, what? He said, what do you want? And I'm just like confused, and I just got blown up. I just fucking saw my friends die next to me, and like, I just want to be myself.
We have a president who does not understand those solemn moments. He is
a master at capturing the anger of the American people, but he is not skilled at capturing the hearts and the minds and the souls of the American people.